They had it all: fame, fortune, and a carefully crafted image under the brightest spotlight. But behind the red carpets and flawless interviews, shocking revelations were quietly waiting to explode. These 19 black celebrities were linked to hidden chapters of their lives involving children the public never knew about. Some stories emerged through court records, others surfaced years later through emotional confessions, DNA tests, or unavoidable truth. When the secrets finally came to light, reputations were shaken and fans were left stunned. This isn't gossip whispered in tabloids, it's a look at the uncomfortable realities that collided with fame, image, and responsibility. Get ready to uncover the hidden lives, the revelations that changed everything, and the moments these stars could no longer outrun the truth. Which story will shock you the most? Hit like, subscribe to Gazeon, and let sets begin. Number 1. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy dominated comedy in the 1980s and 1990s, becoming one of Hollywood's most powerful and bankable stars. With iconic roles in Beverly Hills Cop and Coming to America, he built an empire on charm, humor, and unmatched confidence. To fans, Murphy seemed untouchable, successful, polished, and always in control of his image. That image was shaken in 2007, when a deeply personal controversy pulled him into an unwanted spotlight. The story centered on Melanie Brown, better known as Mel B or Scary Spice from the Spice Girls, following a brief but intense relationship with Murphy. What began as a private matter quickly turned into a public spectacle. On April 3, 2007, ironically, Murphy's own birthday, Mel B gave birth to a daughter, Angel Iris Murphy Brown. Instead of embracing fatherhood, Murphy publicly questioned the child's paternity. In a blunt interview, he stated, "I don't know whose child that is." The comment spread rapidly through tabloids and entertainment news, stunning fans and damaging his carefully crafted public persona. Hurt and humiliated, Mel B insisted on a paternity test. The results were conclusive. Murphy was confirmed as Angel's father with 99% certainty. Legal action followed, and a court ordered Murphy to pay child support. While he complied financially, the emotional distance was hard to ignore. Murphy rarely spoke about Angel, and his involvement in her life appeared limited. Public reaction was divided. Some fans were shocked by the harsh denial, while others struggled to reconcile Murphy's warm, comedic image with his apparent reluctance to acknowledge his daughter. Despite continued success in Hollywood, the incident lingered as a stain on his legacy. For a man whose career was built on making millions laugh, the controversy revealed a sobering truth: fame and talent cannot replace accountability. Even the biggest stars can falter when faced with responsibility, honesty, and the enduring weight of family. Number 2. Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson was once celebrated as one of the most powerful moral voices of the civil rights era. Standing beside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he marched through danger, preached hope from pulpits, and delivered speeches that ignited courage in a divided nation. As a minister and champion of family values, Jackson cultivated an image of discipline, faith, and unwavering integrity, an image that seemed unshakable for decades. That illusion collapsed in 2001 with a revelation that stunned supporters across the country. Jackson publicly admitted that he had fathered a child outside his marriage with Karen Stanford, a former employee. Their daughter, Ashley, had been born nearly 2 years earlier and deliberately kept out of the public eye. Reports soon emerged that Jackson had been paying approximately $10,000 a month in secret financial support, an effort widely described as hush money meant to protect the reputation he had spent a lifetime building. The consequences were immediate and devastating. His wife of more than 30 years, Jacqueline Jackson, offered no public statements, but her quiet presence at events revealed unmistakable pain. Political allies and religious leaders quickly distanced themselves. The Rainbow Push Coalition, founded by Jackson himself, was plunged into controversy, facing internal tension and a sharp erosion of public trust. What many felt was not just disappointment, but betrayal. Jackson issued a tearful apology, acknowledging his actions and asking for forgiveness. Yet for many, the damage was already done. Critics pointed to the stark contrast between his moral preaching and his private behavior, accusing him of hypocrisy. Though he continued his activism, the authority he once wielded was diminished. The scandal surrounding Ashley was never solely about infidelity. It became a larger lesson about honesty, accountability, and the danger of elevating image above truth. Jesse Jackson's fall served as a sobering reminder that even the most revered leaders are human, and that moral authority, once broken, is nearly impossible to restore. Number 3. Flavor Flav. Flavor Flav built his fame on chaos, charisma, and pure spectacle. With his wild outfits, oversized clock necklaces, and explosive catchphrases like "Yeah boy," he became the unmistakable hype man of Public Enemy and a defining figure of early hip-hop culture. His energy helped shape a generation, turning him into more than a musician. He was a walking symbol of rebellion and showmanship. Outside of music, Flav reinvented himself for reality television. Shows like Flavor of Love transformed him into a pop culture fixture, presenting a version of himself that was eccentric, humorous, and surprisingly sentimental. On screen, he often played the role of a devoted father figure, someone flawed but loving. For years, that image stuck, until 2019, when a long-hidden truth surfaced and shattered the narrative. The scandal emerged through a lawsuit filed by Elizabeth Trujillo, who alleged that Flavor Flav was the biological father of her son, Quana. According to the filing, Flav had avoided both financial support and emotional involvement for years. Even more shocking was the fact that the public had never known Quana existed. His absence from Flav's carefully curated public story raised immediate questions. Trujillo made it clear the case wasn't only about money. She wanted acknowledgement. She wanted Flav to accept responsibility and formally recognize his son. At the time, Flavor Flav's name did not appear on Quana's birth certificate, fueling speculation and denial, but once the court ordered a DNA test, all uncertainty vanished. The results confirmed Flav was Quana's biological father. The reaction was swift. Fans who once embraced Flav's playful, family-friendly persona began to see him differently. Critics accused him of hypocrisy, pointing to the sharp contrast between his public image and private actions. While Flav eventually signed the legal paperwork to establish paternity, the damage had already been done. For a man who lived loudly and openly, this hidden chapter became more than a scandal. It was a reckoning. Behind the jokes, the clocks, and the cameras stood a man finally forced to confront a responsibility he could no longer outrun. Number 4. Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson once ruled the boxing world with unmatched fear and dominance. By just 20 years old, he became the youngest heavyweight champion in history, overwhelming opponents with raw power, speed, and relentless aggression. To the public, Tyson seemed indestructible, a man forged in violence, fame, and excess. But behind the spotlight and roaring crowds was a quieter, deeply personal side of his life that remained hidden until tragedy struck in 2009. His daughter, Exodus Tyson, was born from a relationship far removed from fame and media attention. Unlike Tyson's other children, she lived quietly with her mother in Phoenix and was rarely mentioned in public discussions about his life. She existed outside the legend of Iron Mike, known only to those closest to him. That fragile privacy was shattered on May 25, 2009. At just 4 years old, Exodus was found unconscious by her older brother after becoming entangled in the cord of a treadmill inside their home. Her mother immediately began CPR, while emergency responders rushed to the scene. Despite their efforts, the injuries were devastating. Less than a day later, Exodus was pronounced dead. Tyson, who had been in Las Vegas at the time, rushed home not as a feared boxer, but as a grieving father. The man who had faced the most dangerous fighters in the world broke down in tears, helpless against a pain no strength could overcome. In the aftermath, Tyson disappeared from public view. Interviews were canceled, appearances avoided. The grief was overwhelming. Exodus's death marked a turning point in his life, forcing him into deep reflection. The rage and bravado that once defined him gave way to vulnerability and sorrow. This tragedy was more than a heartbreaking loss. It revealed the humanity beneath the armor of a global icon. For Mike Tyson, the hardest battle he ever fought was not in the ring, but learning to live with an unimaginable loss that left a permanent scar on his soul. Number 5. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Floyd Mayweather Jr. carved his name into boxing history with flawless timing, blinding speed, and a perfect undefeated record. Celebrated as one of the sport's greatest technicians, he turned dominance into a billion-dollar brand. Private jets, rare supercars, diamond-covered watches, and endless cash displays became symbols of his success. To the world, Mayweather appeared untouchable, wealthy, victorious, and forever in control. Yet behind the glittering image was a truth money could not bury. For years, Mayweather avoided publicly acknowledging a son who existed outside the spotlight he so carefully managed. Coron Mayweather, born in 1999 to Mayweather's former partner Josie Harris, grew up largely removed from his father's extravagant lifestyle. While Floyd proudly showcased luxury vacations, viral moments, and lavish celebrations for his other children, Coron remained in the shadows, present but unseen. That distance turned tragic in 2010, when Coron, then just 10 years old, was thrust into a nightmare no child should face. Inside their Las Vegas home, he witnessed his father physically assault his mother. Terrified and desperate, Coron fled the house and called for help. His actions and testimony became central to the case that followed, leading to Mayweather's conviction and a 90-day jail sentence. Though brief by legal standards, the punishment could not measure the emotional damage left behind. As he grew older, Coron spoke openly about the pain he carried. In interviews, he described a father who was absent, dismissive, and in his eyes, cowardly. While Mayweather continued to dominate headlines with money, fame, and championship accolades, the public remembered the haunting image of a child forced to stand against his own father in court. Titles, trophies, and an unblemished record could not erase that moment. Inside the ring, Floyd Mayweather Jr. never tasted defeat, but outside it, in the realm of fatherhood, the scars left behind tell a far more complicated story, one where victory was never guaranteed and the cost was painfully human. Number 6. DMX. DMX, born Earl Simmons, was more than a rap legend. He was a channel of raw emotion, pouring pain, anger, faith, and inner turmoil into his music. Rising to fame in the late 1990s with albums like It's Dark and Hell is Hot and Then There Was X, he became one of hip-hop's most intense and authentic voices. His lyrics felt like open wounds, making fans believe they truly knew him. But behind the growls and spiritual confessions was a deeply complicated personal life. While DMX spoke openly about struggle and redemption, much of his private reality remained hidden. At the time of his death in 2021, he had fathered 15 children with multiple women, a family legacy far larger and more fractured than most fans realized. Some of his children were publicly known, including his son Xavier Simmons, who appeared in interviews and tributes. Others, however, lived entirely outside the spotlight. One of them was Sasha Simmons, the daughter of Patricia Trejo. Her existence became public only after a child support lawsuit brought her name into legal records, revealing a child who had long gone unacknowledged. Sasha was not an isolated case. After DMX's death, court proceedings over his estate exposed a tangled and chaotic family structure. Multiple children from different relationships stepped forward, some of whom had never met each other. What emerged was not just a legal dispute over money, but an emotional reckoning with years of absence and silence. Many of DMX's children grew up without stability or consistent guidance from their father. His long battle with addiction, frequent incarcerations, and relentless touring schedule kept him physically and emotionally distant. While his music preached accountability, faith, and pain, his personal life reflected how difficult it was for him to live those truths consistently. For fans, DMX's vulnerability made him relatable and human. For his children, especially those kept in the shadows, that same vulnerability came with consequences, missed milestones, unanswered questions, and love expressed more in lyrics than in presence. His music remains immortal, but alongside it stands a quieter legacy, children left navigating fame, loss, and longing, searching for connection beyond the voice the world celebrated, but they rarely had to themselves. Number 7. Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes earned his place in hip-hop history with blistering speed, booming vocals, and an unmatched stage presence. Known for breathless flows and kinetic energy, he delivered era-defining hits like Break Ya Neck and Touch It, thrilling audiences and cementing his reputation as one of rap's most dynamic technicians. On stage, he was larger than life, animated, fearless, and endlessly commanding. Off stage, however, Trevor George Smith Jr. was locked in a far quieter struggle, one that had nothing to do with charts or applause. In the late 1990s, Busta was involved in a discreet relationship with Jill Mick, a woman who stayed well outside celebrity circles. Their relationship never made headlines, but it did result in the birth of a daughter, Mariah. Unlike the public acknowledgement Busta gave to his other children, Mariah remained invisible. There were no celebratory posts, no interviews, no photos, no recognition at all. Year after year, her existence went unspoken, as if she had been written out of his life entirely. Refusing to accept that silence, Jill filed a paternity suit in the early 2000s. Her goal wasn't only financial support. She sought legal recognition and accountability for her child. Instead of reconciliation, the case turned combative. Busta reportedly invested heavily in legal defenses aimed not at embracing fatherhood, but at denying responsibility. The dispute stretched on, drawing scrutiny and bitterness as it moved through the courts. Eventually, the legal outcome affirmed what Jill had maintained from the start. Mariah was Busta Rhymes' daughter, yet the ruling changed little beyond paperwork. There were no public gestures of reconciliation, no visible relationship forged after the verdict, only distance. Their connection remained confined to court documents rather than shared moments. As Busta's career continued to thrive, the emotional toll of that battle lingered elsewhere. For Mariah, attention came not through pride or belonging, but through litigation. Her place in his story was defined by filings and rulings, not affection. Busta Rhymes may stand tall as a lyrical powerhouse, but in Mariah's life, he remains a remote presence, one who chose image over acknowledgement. Number 8. R. Kelly. R. Kelly was once hailed as the undisputed king of R&B, a musical powerhouse who rose from Chicago's South Side to global fame. With timeless hits like I Believe I Can Fly and Ignition Remix, he dominated charts for decades and became one of the most commercially successful black artists in modern music history. His voice filled arenas, his songs defined generations, and his success seemed untouchable. Yet beneath the platinum plaques and roaring applause existed a far darker reality, one marked by secrecy, control, and emotional neglect, even within his own family. In 2002, R. Kelly and his then-wife Andrea Kelly welcomed a son, Robert Kelly Jr., but unlike the children of many celebrities, Robert Jr. was never showcased as part of his father's legacy. There were no public appearances, no proud acknowledgments, no celebratory moments shared with the world. His absence was deliberate. While R. Kelly basked in fame, his son remained hidden in the shadows, growing up far from the image of glamour and success. The public only became aware of Robert Jr.'s existence when Andrea Kelly bravely came forward with harrowing accounts of emotional and physical abuse during their marriage. Her revelations shattered the carefully crafted image R. Kelly had maintained for years. As accusations against him escalated, ranging from sexual exploitation to manipulation and coercive control, Attention turned to what life must have been like behind closed doors for his children. Robert Jr. came to symbolize that concealed world, a child raised amid fear, instability, and silence. Reports later suggested that he and his siblings gradually distanced themselves from their father, especially as legal cases mounted and the truth became impossible to ignore. The man who built a career singing about love, devotion, and vulnerability failed in one of the most essential roles of all, being a present, protective father. Today, as R. Kelly serves his sentence behind bars, the spotlight has shifted. His music no longer defines the conversation. Instead, focus rests on the lives affected by his actions, and among them stands Robert Kelly Jr., not merely a forgotten son, but a survivor of a legacy built on illusion, secrecy, and broken trust. Number 9. Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg, born Calvin Broadus Jr., rose to fame with a smooth, effortless flow, an instantly recognizable drawl, and the unmistakable cool of West Coast hip-hop. From his explosive debut with Doggy Style to his evolution into a global entertainment figure, Snoop crafted a public image rooted in loyalty, humor, and family values. He frequently praised his wife, Shantae, and proudly highlighted the achievements of his children, reinforcing the persona of a devoted husband and hands-on father. Yet behind that carefully maintained image was a chapter that remained hidden for years, a son he chose not to publicly acknowledge. In 1997, during the height of his career, Snoop was involved in an extramarital relationship with a woman named Lori Holman. That relationship resulted in the birth of a baby boy, Julian Corey Broadus. Instead of embracing fatherhood, Snoop quietly stepped away. For more than a decade, Julian grew up without his father's presence. There were no visits, no financial or emotional support, and no public recognition. His name never surfaced in interviews or family profiles. While Snoop was celebrated as a committed family man, Julian lived in obscurity, carrying the Broadus name but none of the visibility, protection, or warmth associated with it. In 2007, the silence finally ended. A court-ordered DNA test confirmed that Julian was indeed Snoop Dogg's biological son. Legally, the connection was undeniable. Emotionally, however, little changed. While Snoop's other children were showcased on social media, celebrated at events, and included in television appearances, Julian remained on the outside, forced to navigate his identity largely on his own. A genuine father-son relationship never truly formed. In later years, Julian spoke publicly, not out of bitterness, but to share the emotional weight of growing up with an absent father. Determined to define himself independently, he pursued careers in music and real estate, choosing to build success without relying on his famous last name. For all his cultural influence and widespread admiration, Snoop Dogg's story with Julian reveals a quieter, sobering reality. Fame can amplify success, but it cannot erase absence. Even icons can leave behind those who needed them most. Number 10. Jay-Z. Jay-Z, born Sean Carter, is often portrayed as the ultimate success story, rising from the streets of Brooklyn to become a global mogul and one of hip-hop's first billionaires. With chart-topping albums, sprawling business ventures, and a highly celebrated marriage to Beyoncé, his life appears meticulously polished, powerful, and beyond reproach. Yet beyond the glow of private jets and sold-out stadiums lies a long-running controversy that has quietly followed him for years. It centers on an alleged son, Rymir Satterthwaite, whose quest for acknowledgement has stretched on for more than a decade. The story traces back to the early 1990s, before Jay-Z's rise to superstardom, when he reportedly had a brief relationship with a woman named Wanda Satterthwaite. In 1992, Wanda gave birth to Rymir. From the beginning, she maintained that Jay-Z was the father, though no DNA test was ever conducted at the time. As Rymir grew up, he came to accept the story his mother told him, that his biological father was one of the most influential figures in modern music. By his late teens, Rymir began actively seeking the truth for himself. He initiated legal efforts to secure a paternity test and formally establish whether Jay-Z was his father. What followed, according to Rimir, was a maze of legal resistance. Jay-Z's legal team, backed by significant resources, allegedly challenged and delayed each attempt, entangling the case in procedural hurdles and technical dismissals. Rimir has claimed that wealth and influence kept him from receiving a fair hearing. Court filings and interviews suggest Rimir's motivation went beyond money or fame. He has consistently stated that his goal was identity and closure. Despite repeated denials from Jay-Z's attorneys and the absence of an official DNA test, Rimir has remained persistent and outspoken. Jay-Z, meanwhile, has never publicly addressed the allegations, choosing silence instead. As Jay-Z's empire continues to expand, this unresolved chapter lingers in the background, a young man still seeking answers and a powerful icon avoiding direct confrontation. Behind the accolades and achievements, the question remains unanswered: did hip-hop's king leave behind more than music in his past? Number 11. Sean Diddy Combs. Sean Diddy Combs built his legacy as one of the most powerful figures in modern music, crafting an empire defined by ambition, luxury, and meticulous image control. From launching Bad Boy Records to expanding into fashion, media, and spirits, he embodied success on a global scale. At the center of that polished world stood what appeared to be a storybook romance with model and actress Kim Porter, a relationship that, to the public, symbolized stability, devotion, and family unity. Together, Diddy and Kim raised their children under the spotlight, presenting a blended life of glamour and togetherness. They attended events side by side, co-parented openly, and projected an image of unshakable partnership. But in 2006, that carefully maintained facade collapsed when a deeply personal truth emerged. While still in a relationship with Kim, and at the very moment she was pregnant with his twin daughters, Diddy had fathered a child with another woman. That woman was Sarah Chapman, a name unfamiliar to the public until then. She gave birth to a daughter, Chance Combs, conceived during Diddy's ongoing relationship with Kim. The revelation was more than an act of infidelity. It was a profound betrayal that shattered the foundation of trust Kim had placed in him. The timing made it even more painful. Kim was navigating one of the most vulnerable periods of her life when the truth surfaced. Diddy acknowledged Chance as his child, but he offered little public reflection on the emotional devastation left behind. There were no dramatic confessions, no visible attempts to repair the damage in the public eye. Kim, devastated and humiliated, ultimately chose to walk away in 2007, ending a relationship that had spanned more than a decade. What once seemed unbreakable unraveled with startling speed. Over time, Chance was gradually welcomed into the public Combs family. She appeared at gatherings, celebrations, and eventually on social media, becoming part of the broader legacy. Still, the circumstances of her birth left lasting scars. For many fans, the moment redefined Diddy's image, from devoted partner to a reminder that even the most powerful empires can fracture under the weight of a single secret. Behind the mogul's flawless exterior, the scandal exposed the very human flaws beneath the mask. Number 12. 50 Cent. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson built his reputation on survival, toughness, and unapologetic ambition. From enduring 9 gunshot wounds to dominating the rap charts and later reshaping television with power, his journey became the ultimate rags-to-riches narrative. To fans, 50 Cent represented raw honesty, someone who wore his scars proudly and never hid from his past. Yet in 2012, while his career continued to flourish, a deeply personal secret surfaced that challenged that image. It was revealed that 50 Cent had quietly fathered a son, Sire Jackson, with model and entrepreneur Daphne Joy. For years, the public knew nothing. There were no birth announcements, no proud photos, no mentions in interviews. Sire existed entirely outside the carefully managed spotlight. The truth emerged only after TMZ published court documents confirming 50 Cent's paternity. The revelation stunned fans. Why would an artist who spoke so often about legacy, loyalty, and strength keep something so profound hidden? Speculation followed. Was the secrecy meant to protect the child, avoid scrutiny, or navigate legal concerns behind the scenes? Once exposed, 50 Cent shifted course publicly. Almost overnight, Sire went from being invisible to becoming a prominent presence on social media. Lavish Instagram posts followed, showcasing luxury, affection, and pride. By the age of 2, Sire reportedly secured a modeling contract worth around $700,000, instantly becoming one of the most high-profile celebrity children in fashion. Still, not everyone was convinced by the transformation. Critics questioned whether this sudden embrace was genuine or calculated damage control. Those doubts were amplified by 50 Cent's long and very public estrangement from his first son, Marquise Jackson, a relationship marked by online feuds, harsh interviews, and years of unresolved tension. The stark contrast between the fractured bond with Marquise and the polished fatherhood image surrounding Sire did not go unnoticed. In the end, the story revealed a deeper contradiction. For a man whose brand was built on brutal transparency and keeping it real, the delayed acknowledgement of his son exposed a quieter truth. Even the most fearless personas sometimes struggle to face their most vulnerable realities. Number 13. Rick Ross. Rick Ross fashioned himself as hip-hop's ultimate boss, a larger-than-life figure defined by authority, excess, and control. With his commanding voice, lavish lifestyle, and the rise of Maybach Music Group, he projected an image of unstoppable wealth and dominance. Mansions, supercars, and platinum records became symbols of a legacy that seemed meticulously managed. But in 2017, that facade fractured when a personal truth emerged, one money and fame could not bury. The revelation centered on a daughter named Berkeley Hermes Roberts, born to fitness model Brianna Camille. For years, both the relationship and the child remained hidden. While Ross publicly celebrated success and luxury, Berkeley existed outside his narrative, unacknowledged and unseen. The public only learned of her after Brianna filed a lawsuit seeking child support, alleging not just neglect but outright denial, claims that Ross had neither formally recognized paternity nor provided consistent financial support. The story ignited media attention not simply because Ross had another child, but because it clashed sharply with the persona he sold to the world. Fans struggled to reconcile the image of a man who rapped about power, loyalty, and legacy with allegations of distance from his own daughter. The contradiction cut deep, challenging the authenticity of the brand he had built. Court proceedings eventually required Ross to provide monthly child support, including health insurance and additional funds after a second child with Brianna was born. As the legal process unfolded, Ross began to bring Berkeley into public view, posting photos, appearing at birthdays, and acknowledging her presence. Yet for many observers, the timing felt reactive, prompted by public scrutiny, rather than a spontaneous embrace of fatherhood. In the end, the episode served as a sobering reminder. Rick Ross may thrive on grand gestures and opulence, but fatherhood demands more than visibility and wealth. It requires responsibility, humility, and acknowledgement, qualities no mansion, lyric, or platinum plaque can replace when a child is waiting to be seen. Number 14. Stevie J. Stephen Aaron Jordan, widely known as Stevie J, first made his mark in the 1990s as a gifted producer whose sound helped define an era. As a key architect behind hits for icons like the Notorious Big, Mariah Carey, and Diddy, and a core member of Bad Boy Records, his talent earned Grammy recognition and industry respect. At his peak, Stevie J was synonymous with success behind the scenes. As the years passed and his music career slowed, he found a second act in reality television. On Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, Stevie J reintroduced himself to the public as an outspoken, emotional, and often chaotic personality. But under the glare of reality TV cameras, a long-buried truth resurfaced, one that had nothing to do with music or ratings. It was the story of a daughter he had ignored for years. In 1998, Stevie J had a brief relationship with Carol Antoinette Bennett that resulted in the birth of their daughter, Savannah Jordan. What followed was more than a decade of silence. Stevie provided no financial support, no emotional presence, and no public acknowledgement. While viewers watched him interact with his other children on television, Savannah grew up entirely outside his life, watching her father on screen but never hearing from him in reality. By 2012, Carol decided the silence had gone on long enough. She stepped forward publicly, accusing Stevie J of owing hundreds of thousands of dollars in unpaid child support. With documentation in hand, she exposed the situation, and the media quickly seized on the story. Love and hip-hop amplified the controversy, turning Stevie's real-life neglect into a televised reckoning. Savannah's existence, once hidden, became emblematic of a broader issue: celebrity fathers who evade responsibility until public pressure forces accountability. The story resonated because it wasn't manufactured drama, it was painfully real. A mother demanding justice, a daughter seeking acknowledgement, a man confronted with years of absence. Although Stevie J eventually recognized Savannah, the emotional damage could not be undone. For many fans, the moment went beyond reality TV. It was a stark reminder that fame can conceal deep personal failures, and that no hit song or television spotlight can silence a child who waited too long to be seen. Number 15. Future. Future, born Navadius Demon Wilburn, emerged as one of trap music's most influential voices, shaping a generation with hypnotic production and emotionally distant, melancholic lyrics. With multiple platinum albums, chart dominance, and headline-making relationships, he cultivated the image of a modern rap anti-hero, detached, indulgent, and seemingly untouchable. Designer shades, luxury cars, and cold confessions became part of his brand. But behind the carefully curated persona was a truth that could not remain hidden forever. Long before the fame, there was a son named Jacoby Wilburn. Born in 2002, a child Future would spend years avoiding, both publicly and privately. Jacoby's mother, Jessica Smith, kept their son away from the spotlight as Future's career skyrocketed. While the rapper celebrated wealth and showcased other children on social media, Jacoby remained absent. There were no birthday tributes, no interviews, no acknowledgement of his existence. Silence became the defining feature of their relationship. For more than a decade, Future neither confirmed nor embraced his role as Jacoby's father. That emotional absence eventually erupted into a legal confrontation. In 2013, Jessica filed a child support lawsuit, alleging that Future had failed to provide consistent financial support. What unfolded in court exposed more than unpaid obligations, it revealed a pattern of avoidance. During proceedings, Future was accused of minimizing his income to reduce support payments. At the same time, he publicly flaunted his wealth, once boasting about carrying $25,000 in cash at all times. That contradiction became a pivotal moment. Jessica pushed for increased support, and the case quickly evolved into a broader conversation about celebrity responsibility and accountability. Fans began to question whether Future's distance from Jacoby was a matter of privacy or neglect. As he continued to have children with other women, Jacoby remained conspicuously missing from the image he presented to the world. The omission was impossible to ignore. Today, Jacoby has reached adulthood largely without his father's presence or guidance. While the lawsuit eventually concluded, the emotional damage lingered. For Future, the case served as a quiet but powerful reminder that success cannot substitute for fatherhood, and that sometimes, silence speaks louder than fame, fortune, or even the most vulnerable lyrics. Number 16. Ludacris. Christopher Ludacris Bridges built a career on versatility, blending animated lyricism and humor into chart-topping rap hits before successfully crossing into film and philanthropy. Over the years, he carefully shaped a public image as a grounded family man, often highlighting his role as a devoted father, particularly to the daughters he shares with his wife, Eudoxie Mbugiengu. To fans, Ludacris appeared balanced, famous, successful, yet firmly rooted in family values. That image was shaken in 2013 when a hidden chapter of his personal life surfaced. News broke that Ludacris had fathered a daughter, Kai Bella Bridges, from a brief relationship with Tamika Fuller, a woman far removed from his celebrity world. The revelation caught the public off guard, threatening the wholesome reputation he had spent years cultivating. Initially, Ludacris remained silent, making no public statements and reportedly attempting to handle the situation privately. But when Tamika filed for child support, the story erupted into the spotlight. Instead of quietly resolving the matter, Ludacris made a surprising and controversial move. He filed for full custody of the newborn just weeks after her birth. The decision sparked widespread debate. Supporters framed it as a commitment to fatherhood, while critics questioned his motives, suggesting the custody bid may have been a strategic effort to reduce or avoid long-term child support. The case quickly escalated into a highly publicized courtroom battle, filled with emotional testimony, legal strategy, and relentless media attention. In 2015, the court granted Ludacris full custody of Kai, a ruling that stunned many observers. While he pledged to raise her in a loving and stable environment, doubts lingered. Tamika publicly expressed heartbreak, claiming she was being pushed out of her daughter's life, adding another layer of controversy to the outcome. In the years since, Ludacris has shared occasional photos of Kai on social media, presenting an image of unity among his children. Still, the circumstances surrounding her birth and custody remain a point of contention. For a man once celebrated for carefree lyrics and fast living, Kai Bella's arrival forced Ludacris into his most scrutinized role yet, not as a rapper or actor, but as a father navigating accountability under an unforgiving public microscope. Number 17. Chris Brown. Chris Brown once stood at the center of R&B's future, dazzling audiences with acrobatic dance moves, silky vocals, and a magnetic stage presence. When he emerged in the mid-2000s, the industry quickly labeled him the next Michael Jackson, a prodigy destined for superstardom. Yet as his fame grew, so did controversy, trailing him through every phase of his career. In 2015, a deeply personal revelation shifted attention away from music and into his private life. It surfaced that Brown had secretly fathered a daughter named Royalty with model Nia Guzman. For 9 months, the pregnancy and birth had been kept completely hidden. The secrecy cut especially deep because even Brown's then-girlfriend, actress and model Karrueche Tran, was unaware of the child's existence. Karrueche learned the truth not from Brown, but through tabloid reports. The shock and sense of betrayal were overwhelming. After enduring years of public breakups, cheating allegations, and the lingering shadow of Brown's past with Rihanna, this revelation became the final blow. She walked away permanently, making it clear she had been blindsided and could not continue the relationship. As media attention exploded, Brown initially stayed silent. When he finally confirmed the news, he publicly embraced fatherhood, naming his daughter Royalty, a choice many interpreted as symbolic, an attempt to redefine his priorities. He began sharing photos with her, featuring her prominently on social media, and even titled an album in her honor, signaling a shift toward a more personal narrative. Still, the conflict continued. Guzman filed for full custody and requested $15,000 per month in child support, alleging Brown was inconsistent and that aspects of his lifestyle posed risks. What followed was a tense and public custody dispute, marked by accusations from both sides. Ultimately, Brown was granted joint custody, and Royalty became a visible, central figure in his life. Though her arrival began in secrecy, Royalty soon emerged as a stabilizing presence in Brown's turbulent world. Yet the circumstances surrounding her birth, marked by secrecy, heartbreak, and scandal, forever reshaped how fans viewed the artist once admired solely for his talent and charm. Number 18. Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne, born Dwayne Michael Carter Jr., built his legacy on bravado, unpredictability, and razor-sharp lyricism. Rising from the gritty beginnings of Fab Block is Hot to the cultural dominance of Fab Carter III, he cemented himself as one of hip-hop's most influential figures. His music was loud, fearless, and unapologetic, mirroring a public persona that seemed to leave nothing hidden. When it came to fatherhood, Wayne appeared equally open. He frequently spoke about his daughter Regina, celebrating her in interviews, lyrics, and public appearances. But in 2008, during the peak of his fame, a very different story unfolded quietly behind the scenes. Lil Wayne welcomed another child, a son named Dwayne Carter III, away from the glare of the spotlight. The child's mother was Sarah Vivian, a radio personality with little connection to the celebrity world. Unlike his other children, Dwayne III's arrival was kept almost entirely private. There were no public announcements, no proud interviews, no celebratory photos circulating online. For months, even the child's identity and connection to Wayne remained unconfirmed. In an era when celebrity births dominated headlines, the silence was striking. As rumors began to surface, curiosity grew. Eventually, Lil Wayne acknowledged that he had a new son, but briefly and without elaboration. The low-key confirmation only fueled speculation. Why was this child kept secret? Why the hesitation, especially from an artist known for oversharing his life through music? Over time, Dwayne Carter III slowly entered the public view. Wayne began posting occasional photos and offering small acknowledgments, including birthday tributes. Still, the delayed recognition stood in sharp contrast to the rapper's bold, outspoken image. Fans debated whether Wayne had been protecting his son from fame's pressures or simply trying to maintain control over a carefully managed narrative. As the years passed, Wayne grew more open about Dwayne III, but the quiet way his son entered the world left a lasting impression. In a career defined by loud confidence and emotional transparency, this chapter revealed a more guarded, conflicted side of Lil Wayne, proof that even artists who bear their souls on records can struggle to confront the most personal truths of all. Number 19. Drake. Drake, born Aubrey Drake Graham, spent much of his career perfecting a carefully balanced image, emotionally open yet private, vulnerable yet controlled, romantic yet elusive. From Take Care to Scorpion, he positioned himself as hip-hop's global spokesman, dominating charts worldwide, while keeping his personal life sealed behind layers of discretion. That carefully guarded boundary collapsed in 2018, not through paparazzi photos or leaked documents, but through a single rap record that shook the industry. In the story of Adidon, rival rapper Pusha T accused Drake of hiding a child from the world, a son named Adonis, born to French artist and former adult film star Sophie Brousseau. The allegation landed like a bombshell. Social media erupted instantly. Fans were stunned, headlines spread rapidly, and Drake's reputation for secrecy was suddenly exposed. Until that moment, he had never publicly acknowledged having a child. Behind the scenes, he had worked intensely to keep both the mother and the boy out of public view, making the revelation all the more jarring. Cornered by the diss, Drake chose not to deny the claim. Instead, he answered in the language he knew best: music. On Scorpion, he addressed the accusation directly, delivering the now famous line, "I wasn't hiding my kid from the world, I was hiding the world from my kid." The lyric reframed the narrative, suggesting protection rather than embarrassment, intention rather than secrecy. After the album's release, Drake's approach to fatherhood shifted dramatically. He began sharing moments with Adonis publicly: birthday celebrations, drawings, candid photos, and emotional captions. Over time, Adonis became a visible presence in Drake's life, even appearing beside him at award shows and public events. Yet questions lingered. The fact that Drake's fatherhood became public only after a diss track, rather than through personal choice, left many wondering about authenticity. For an artist praised for emotional honesty and self-reflection, the prolonged secrecy told a more complicated story. Drake's career remains defined by chart-topping hits, vulnerability, and global influence. Still, Adonis's hidden beginnings stand as one of hip-hop's most unexpected revelations, a reminder that even the most introspective superstar can struggle to confront life's most intimate truths when the spotlight burns brightest. And that brings us to the end of this deep dive into the untold stories of 19 black celebrities who kept their children out of the public eye. These revelations leave us with difficult questions about fame, privacy, and responsibility. Can the pressure of stardom ever justify secrecy in fatherhood, or does it demand greater accountability? From legal battles to private admissions, every story reflects a painful tension between image and truth. Now we want to hear from you. Do these stars deserve empathy for protecting their families, or criticism for the harm caused by silence? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this video made you think, don't forget to like, subscribe to Gazeon, and turn on notifications. More powerful, thought-provoking stories are coming next.